All
Away
right.
we go. If we get to a point that you want out, just let me know. We'll call it. But so how was the Clash, man? How was shooting that?
So the class is difficult because you really don't have a lot of access to like normal tracks. You're in the middle, or you can go kind of wherever you want by the fence, and kind of you're not limited by anything really. Like once you have that vest on, you're good to go. Whereas a clash, you kind of only have like from the 14th row up to shoot. So you kind of got to get creative, and you don't like there's that fence is massive, and the short track makes it just tough to shoot. So it's probably one of my harder ones to really shoot, I guess, in a way. Um, but for an overall event, like I actually really like it. Like I think it's really fun. I think the crowd um, is different than what we usually get. So that part of it's fun. Just to kind of like see people that you don't really see at a normal racetrack, or just kind of like see that diversity of people and young ages, and like that part of it's really cool. So I think it's a very cool event and fun to watch, not so much to
Yeah.
shoot. So
Yeah, but I mean, even with those creative barriers, dude, your work from the Clash was fantastic. You
thank
did
you.
some killer work, man. I love that moonshot over the Olympic torch. That had to be my
Ah,
favorite.
so my she's our social media. She basically like handles all of our social media, like at the track, like posts and stuff. So her and the rest of the SHR people were over at turn four, and she sent me a picture of the moon. And like the day before, I'd shot the moon from like up in the stand. I'm like, like I think where she sent me that, I'm like, I think I have enough time to run over there and find to like line it up. Well, the flame wasn't on yet. I didn't even know they were gonna turn it on. So I was literally like running up and down rows of seating to try to like line it up with the flame, or with that, what's it called? Do you
The
know what that
Olympic
thing's called?
torch
The Olympic
ish,
torch, yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
So finally they turned it on, and like at that moment, like I was just in the right part of the stand that I actually like got it all lined up, and like then they start shooting fireworks off. I'm like, this couldn't be any more perfect. So uh, yeah, that really worked out way better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, even with the creative barriers, like, obviously you don't have much room to move around and you can't shoot from the inside. It seems like a really photogenic atmosphere. Like I was watching at home, like, oh man, how they paint the asphalt and stuff. I'm like, this would look so
Mhm.
cool on some slow pans. I mean, even though like,
Yeah,
the angles are limited, like it looks like super fun to shoot in its own
no,
right.
it is. I think in my part, you just get kind of spoiled, and you get used to that access that gives you like any different angle you want. Um, the slow pans, like I felt like I was just off, for the slow pan, so I just stuck to different things and kind of try to get different angles and stuff like that. Like I really thought it was really cool. Like you could see like the drivers like really like digging. So like I just thought it was cool. Like you could almost see their eyes like in like as they're coming out of the turn. So like that was kind of like draw my kept drawing my attention to it. Um, and then with the 41, like he just drove through the field, and like there was no way that I was gonna beat him. Um, so it kind of took over, like my creative mind went to the competition side, and like started like, man, like as long as these restarts kind of work out in our favor, like there's nobody that's gonna beat him. As much modified experience as he has, like he knew every trick in the book when it came to a short track. So it wasn't like you weren't gonna give him anything that he didn't already know how to defend. Other than a fuel pump kind of going bad, like there,
Mhm.
that's the only reason he was gonna lose is something like that happened. So
And then it ended
but
up
yeah,
being a
you're
fuel
right.
thing.
Yeah, I think it was a pump one kind of just started malfunctioning, like it was making it cut out down the straightaway. And I have one shot that he's going down the backstretch, and I remember when it happened, like it kind of like blew out something out of the tailpipe. I'm like, is that just tire smoke? Was he like, because it was under caution, and it was that next run that he started getting passed. So it's like I don't know if that was the moment where like it started missing. But yeah, that one was tough. Like my family like kind of came from the Los Angeles area. Like I used to live like 20 minutes away from there. I was like a really young kid, so like to me like it was ultra special to just be there and shoot it and see it. Um, so that one probably stung more than most losses. but it's all good.
Yeah, I bet. And
I've
I
heard
think
we're
that's
going
something.
back there again next year, so
Oh, we are going back?
I heard
Hey,
we are.
all right.
So I got one
Well,
more chance to win it.
there you go. So, like, I think that's something a lot of people don't realize about photographers is how much you guys. I mean, I haven't done the clientele work, but from like looking on the outside, you guys are seemingly just as much as a part of the team as everybody else. And I think that's something that people don't realize. Like, how much are you a team player for Stewart-Haas?
Um, I mean, as far as like, are you talking about the competition side, or are you just talking about like as far as the team in general?
I mean, you're like involved with the team, and then how much you're like invested. I guess personally invested into the team.
Okay, so like my story is kind of a unique one. Like I've been building the cars for since 2004. I've been a body hanger at Stewart-Haas since 2008, and then this year is actually the first time I'm not going to be. So I've been tied in with every other than the brand new people. Like I've been tied in with that team forever. Like it seems like my family. So like my when I'm shooting the guys or the team or whatever, like that's like my best friend. Like that's my family out there. So I might be a little bit tied in more than most photographers are, just because it's like I know exactly what they're experiencing, what they're going through. I've been there. We've worked like many, many, many hours, like just you know working our guts out. So like I take that very, very personal as far as like winning. Like I still have that like burning desire to win, and like it's just I don't think they'll ever go away. But like the thing is, like for me, the body hanging part of it was getting to where like I couldn't make a difference, and I couldn't really help the team. I couldn't see myself like whereas used to be like build a car and like this is the most downforce of any car out there, like that was your goal. And so like I told Zippy, I'm like, I don't feel like I can make a big I can't be very like I can't help the team over here, but I can help the team over here. And like I feel like I can make a difference and kind of get the social media group and the competition side, like kind of like blend them together more like to where they will be more comfortable with the camera in their face and like they know me, they know I'm not going to do anything dumb or make them look dumb. So I think like I get kind of not special treatment, but I definitely get more access than like a lot of photographers have got. But you see a lot of like there's Jared Allen and Denny Hamlin's photographer. Like, I mean, that guy follows him around and like they fly together, like they do everything together. So like you see more and more where the photographers are getting more and more put into the team aspect of it. And I think that goes along with what you're asking. Like it just seems like the more social media gets bigger, the more like that's needed, like the more photographers are going to be intertwined within the team, not just standing outside the fence taking pictures. Like they are a part of the team. And so like we fly with them, we do everything with them. Like I'm in and out of the shop every day, just trying to make sure we're seen and we're kind of like part of the, part of the group. So,
No, I gotcha. So at face value, I think a lot of people look at motorsports photographers. Oh, you just take pictures of race cars.
hmm
And I mean, I don't do the clientele work. I do more like the media side, like journalism stuff. But even I know that's not even close to the case, especially if you're intertwined with the social media. So can you like describe a bit what kind of sectors you cover just besides taking pictures of cars on track and that's it? Like there's so much more to that.
yeah, for us, like our social media team really just wanted to like kind of like make art. Like we wanted to be different. So like that's what they, kind of like when we looked at like you mentioned my Instagram page earlier, it's not really like you look at it and you're like, okay, this isn't really racing. This is like landscapes and pretty things and like how can you make these two together come together? So like that was their goal was to try to like change how it's we don't want just like pretty snapshots of cars. Like we want people, we want like the emotion, we want like the like almost like you want to feel like you're there. So that's kind of more of like what they challenged me with is trying to make it to where like anybody that's been to a race, like you can feel the emotion, you can feel the power of the cars, but like how do you transcribe that into a picture? Like so that's kind of more like what I'm not asked to do, but that's my goal is to try to make it to where you're not just snapping a car going 200 miles per hour because like any camera really, right? Like can do that. Like you can take a picture of a car going by you, but like how can you make that, you know, how can you make that more not just artistic, but like viewers are gonna look at that and be like, well, that's really cool. Like I wanna see that. I wanna be there. Um, and so I think that's my goal is to just kind of give a different lens and different like try to be different. You know, like I think that's what we all try to be, but kind of put your different spin on racing photography. Like I see Jamie Price's work and like I love his work. I learned a lot from following him and like Drew Gibson and a few other people. Like you see what they're doing is just amazing what you can do with a camera. And if you just put that into shooting a race, like if you just look at it differently, like it's just there's so much going on other than just cars going, you know, super fast by you. So that's kind of my goal every time I get to the track. So, but then like in the shop, like I try to I love black and white. So like to me, like you see Mercedes, like I don't know if you follow Mercedes F1, like
Mhm.
their
Yeah.
Formula One, their page or whatever, but they do like Moody Mondays and like that's my goal is to get it to where like every you know week like we're doing black and white and like we're just showing a different you know not just showing like here's your race car and this is what we're racing this weekend like just to see the more like the other side of racing that a lot of people don't see. So
No,
I mean,
and that's
today I
like
got access. I got okayed to shoot something that like I had to ask. I had to ask the engineer probably 5 times, like if he was messing with me, because I'm like, 2 years ago you would have told me no, flat out. Like you did tell me no on this, and you're telling me yes right now. And he's like, I don't care what you do. He's like, I trust you. Like shoot it. So we'll see how this turns out.
and that seems like only something you could get with the chemistry you've had for working with these guys so
Mm,
long. So working with them so long, Stewart-Haas since, almost 20 years now, you guys won a championship. And
yeah.
you won a championship. You're part of a winning team. How did that make you feel?
So that year was probably my as a body hanger. That is my favorite year. Like we, you know, I ran a body hanging plate. So there's me and two other guys, and like we were kind of the younger misfits. Like we didn't, you know, body hangers have been around forever. So like you had the older guys, and we were just the ones that kind of like we would pay attention to downforce, and we kind of like figured out what was better, what was working, kind of how to get away with NASCAR rules at that point. Um, so probably 3 quarters through the season, like we had built a car for Kurt Busch, and he went out to Texas, and I think he ran like 200 miles per hour and like qualifying, like set the record for qualifying time. And Rodney came up to me and he's like, I want you to build me a car just like that for Homestead if we make it. I'm like, okay. And like at that point, like I was traveling, I was a fabricator almost every week. In the playoffs, I was traveling about every week. Um, so like to say I took pride in that year and like everything that went on, like I can't even describe to you like how much like went into that year. Like I think I worked 7 of the last 10 races, and that was with missing no days work. So like I would
Mm.
fly in, fly home on Sunday. I'd get to work on Monday, work till Thursday, fly out Thursday, you know. So we built this car and it's like, I mean, it was pushing everything. Like every possible panel that we put on that car was as aggressive as you could possibly make it. And Rodney Childers is like, good, do it. So the whole weekend, like, I mean, we were decent in practice, but Kevin's kind of that guy that's never going to go out there and just lay down a blistering lap. And so I was nervous the whole weekend. The night before, it would have been Saturday night, the night before the race. Like we did some things to the car that, you know, like we'd cut some stuff apart and like kind of like I don't know how you want to word that, but made it to where when the tire changer pulled the tire, like it was gonna do not what NASCAR wanted it to do. But we did it, and the first pit stop, they came down and like the tire carrier hit it perfectly, and it just pulled out, and like it actually flared out way more than I wanted it to. And like they were talking about bringing the car down under green, like you follow racing, like you know green flag stops are like your
Oh
day's
yeah,
done. And I'm
100%.
freaking out. Well, they're like, no, like, you know, there's nothing, you know, nothing's wrong with it. Like, it, you know, it looks good. It just looks really, really aggressive, but they're not saying anything. So, so they let him go and like kind of through pit strategy, and he just worked his way up there. And I remember those last laps, like they took forever. Like that last lap I thought was like 22 minutes. Like it seemed like it was never going to end, and to win that championship and to just see that video pop up here and there and like hear like, Kevin Harvick championship, like I'll never forget that night. Like it just that's the moment in my life I'll never ever forget. So yeah,
No, that's gotta be.
it was cool.
I can imagine. Now, do you get a championship ring for being a fabricator?
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Everybody,
awesome.
pretty much everyone in the shop got a ring. So I have one for Stewart's 2011 and then the 2014 championship.
There
I
you
think
go.
I
Now,
have 6 or 7 rings total because you get one for like the Brickyard, which we've won a couple, and then what else have we won? Daytona 500, and then the All Star race. So between those, I have enough to carry. I've never worn them, but they're cool to look at.
you've got enough bling to show around. So,
Yeah.
as their photographer now, say they won the championship this year, would you get one as a photographer too?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So we've
awesome.
only won one race that I've ever photographed. I missed both of them last year, but when Amarola won the year before, like like I didn't have the right camera. So like, like ISO, like you're struggling. It was at New Hampshire, so it
No,
rained.
I was yeah, I was there as a fan, dude. It was so dark, and that's what people don't
Yeah.
understand. They see on TV, they say it wasn't that bad out. I'm like,
No,
but it
like
was
cameras are
dark.
amazing. Like I remember like when they jumped off the wall, like I don't remember what the ISO cranked up to, but I remember it being like it was super grainy and I'm like, this is crap, but like that's all I had. Like I didn't have a flash. Like I just, like it was supposed to be a day race, right? Like you don't even anticipate bringing a flash to a day race.
No,
Like I don't remember even being told there was going to be rain till I showed up. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I want to shoot another win. Like that's my, like I missed them all last year, and I just want to see that excitement. Like last year, we Chase was like making his way through the playoffs and like battling, scraping, like the roll like where 41 kind of had his issue where he whatever you want to say happened there. But I was in the 14 pit box. Well, they were losing their mind because I mean, he drove his butt off that last race to kind of make it to that, make it in. And I just remember how excited the crew was. I'm like, if they get this excited for making it, for finishing like I forget like 10th or something like that.
Mhm.
Like I just, you know, I dream about the time where they actually win and I get to shoot that. So because they are all my friends, right? Like I want to that's probably the coolest thing about being the photographer for the race team is like when you take those shots, like you walk through the shop and everybody's like, I love that picture. Like, can you send it to me? Can you send me that one? Like it's kind of opened up a lot of friendships within the shop that I don't think I ever had before, just because they knew like, we talked because I worked for the race team and I built the cars, but like pit crew guys, like we didn't ever interact with, I was in the shop there at the track. Whereas now, like between the pit crew and the teams and the drivers, like there's just so much more that it opens up, and like the friendships and the, experiences you get to have with those people is just much, much different. So
And so being with an in-house photographer, obviously you spend a crap ton of time around like the team members and stuff, but spending so much time, like what is your relationship like with the drivers or even the big man, like the big boss, Tony Stewart? What is your relationship with those guys?
well, Tony has been like, I remember the first time I ever heard. So my family lives in Indiana. Um, and so my cousin had went to a midget race up there, and he's like, I saw your boss, and I mentioned your name, and he actually like, he's like, oh yeah, like he knew my name. I'm like, that's weird. Like, like you just never really like. Tony was my hero when I was a kid. So, can you see my dog?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
75% of the viewers will just be audio, so
Okay.
but that might be a good soundbite for TikTok. So you might see it there.
Awesome. Yeah, so Tony and I became friends. Like we Stewart-Haas used to have kind of like one guy had a little dirt go-kart track in the back of his house, basically. So 4 or 5 guys had go-karts. Well, then 10 guys had go-karts. Well, then it was like this thing where everybody in the shop, like we all had these dirt go-karts. And so I had bought one and I had never raced dirt. So I bought it, kind of got it going, showed up, no clue what I'm doing. I mean, the track was junk. And I'm like, this guy was helping. Like he kind of like, let's do this, let's do this. So we did that and the track had dried out a little bit. Well, there's a car in front of me and I caught him, moved him out of the way and drove by him and come back in the pits and they're like, do you know who you just moved? I'm like, no. And they're like, that was Stewart. I'm like, so that's like my claim to go-kart fame is I passed him and moved him. I didn't just pass him. Like I literally like drove him in the turn, shoved him out the track, went by him and passed him. So, but yeah, Tony is awesome. Like he's probably one of my favorite people. Like he kind of has gotten a bad rap here and there, but like he's one of the most genuine, good people you'll ever meet. As far as the other drivers, Harvick has not said a lot to me, but I hear from other people that he actually like enjoyed my pictures and like also knows me. Like it was kind of like cool when Rodney's like, "Hey, he's like Kevin really likes your photos." I'm like, "Well, I didn't know Kevin actually even knew my name." Like I'm just you feel weird when you're just sticking a camera in somebody's face or you're just trying to be like, "I'm down here on the ground shooting up at you," and you
It
have to
feels
just
so
be thinking, like,
invasive.
"What are you doing?" But like getting that sunlight right, like until they think they trust you and like they probably saw the picture, like, all right, like he's not making me look dumb. Like I'll let him do whatever he wants, but it's still weird for me. But this year, being there more often, getting to do like the driver photo shoots earlier in the year, like we've kind of like started talking, and he wants me to go to the SRX races with him this year and get to go shoot that. Um, Chase Briscoe is probably one of the coolest guys I've met. Like he's just so down to earth, funny. Like you would never imagine this guy's like that ruthless driver until he straps a helmet on because he's just so nice and friendly and just fun to be around. Eric, I talk to Eric here and there, but it's not like we're kind of different people. So, and then Priest has been really cool to shoot. He's just very open and like, there's some people when you point a camera at them, they kind of just close up and like he kind of gets it. He knows that like what he needs to do to kind of like be natural and look cool and give you the shot that you're trying to get. Because not all of them do that. Like I see Bubba Wallace's social media and I'm like that guy gets it. Like he
Yeah,
knows that these pictures are gonna be you know help him in his career and help him
yeah.
look good and help him get the following that he needs.
When you were
Um,
saying that, that's the one that instantly popped into my mind from my experience. I'm like, Bubba, 100% gets it when
yeah,
you're, yeah,
yeah, like he puts his helmet on outside the car, like he does everything right when it comes to that. And like and his photographers kill it. Like they do an awesome job and but I see how he reacts to them and he plays with it, whereas some drivers don't always play with it and like they kind of I don't want and I would do it, believe me. Like if you point a camera at me, like I'm gonna freeze up, like I'm gonna be the worst person to ever photograph. So like it's cool to kind of see their dynamics and see which ones kind of like will help you make a better picture just by reacting differently or not reacting at all. So but yeah, like my it's pictures are cool how they will make friendships with people you never imagined you'd make friendships with. So
no, it really can bring people together.
mhm,
And it's
for
this
sure.
weird force. But going back to how you were said, like you all of a sudden, like your childhood hero knows your name. Like where were you as a kid looking if you knew as a kid what you were doing now, like that would be a
It,
huge
it
just like
it never so like I grew up in California, Northern California, and I had raced street stocks and um, mini stocks and a few late models and a modified kind of well I'd won a street stock championship in 2004 and I knew I didn't have enough money to kind of like move up in the ranks or move up into division. So I was like, well, I'm going to move to North Carolina and I'm going to go to school and learn how to build them and move home. But before I did that, I was working with a midget team and I was really like trying to get my foot in the door to race that car. And like, I was helping them. They were like, he was coming to watch me race. Like he was kind of like, that was my guy. And like, so he took me down to Irwindale kind of like in 1999, I think. And like that was the point where like Stewart was, maybe it was 2000, I think. Stewart was coming up and like he was rookie of the year. Maybe he just won the championship the year before. That's what it was. He won the championship. So we're this like low budget Northern California midget team, and we show up to the turkey shootout or whatever it was called down in Urbandale. And I was watching the heat races go or something like that, and like this guy walks up with his leather jacket, Home Depot in the back, and sits right in front of me. And I knew immediately, like, you know who that is. I'm like, oh my god, like that's Tony Stewart. Like literally, like I could kick him in the back right now. And just looking back on that, like I never even imagined like this guy would ever know my name. He would let me take his picture, give me crap every time I do take his picture. Like that kid sitting in the stands was just amazed to even be sitting there and around him. So yeah, like I never imagined this was ever gonna be. I never imagined staying in North Carolina. I never imagined I was gonna be, build the cars or whatever. It just all kind of just happened. Um, but like you said, like it still feels kind of like surreal anytime I talk to Stuart. Like I don't think that'll ever go away, and I don't ever really want it to go away. Is like I like that to be able to look back and just have that moment where I was just a fan and just admired his racing and admired what he was doing, and to now to be able to be call him a friend. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride. Like small town Northern California. Like I think my town had like 800 people in it, and so it's been fun.
So, yeah, man, that's quite the journey. So, in the journey from like childhood, where did photography come along? Whether it was motorsports first or whatever, like the variety of other stuff you do outside of it.
So my mom was actually like the biggest tomboy you'll ever meet in your life. She raced cars. She was kind of like that girl that if there's something that guys did, like she wanted to do it and she wanted to beat the guys. Well, we grew up, or she grew up in Los Angeles, Fullerton, kind of right by where the Coliseum's at. And she just happened to, I think she was, oh, that's what, John Force's shop was down the road. So she was always like, loved racing. Her dad took her to all the races, drag races. Like she drag raced, as a kid, like in Los Angeles, like that was kind of the thing. Like street racing was pretty big. And so she had a camera. Well, John Force's shop before he was anybody, like nobody knew his name. We would go hang out. Like I was running around with Ashley Force as 3 and 4 year old kids. Um, and so her goal was to like take pictures. So like she just loved to take pictures. So she asked John, like, can you help me get down on the line and take pictures? So he's like, yeah. So he basically like vouched for her, got her credentials, and kind of helped get her career going to where like she started shooting for NHRA magazine. There's a couple other drag racing illustrated, I think it was called. Um, and just that's what she did. Like she was a motorsports photographer all throughout California, from Phoenix to Oregon to Washington. Like we would just travel up and down um, the coast, taking pictures of all kinds of different drag races and NASCAR and stuff like that. And so I was always around it, and like it's just what she did. So like when she wanted me to like be quiet, she'd give me her camera and be like, "Here, just take pictures, go have fun, like whatever." Like, and she would set it up for me, so I would take pictures and kind of just goof off. And I think when I was like 8, maybe I was younger than that. Um, I think his name is Dave McClellan. He's an old NHRA announcer, like one of
The
those
name
legendary
sounds
voices.
familiar.
Yeah, legendary voices. Like you watch any old NHRA video, that you'll hear his voice. Well, he was interviewing her, and I kept yelling at her, like, 'cause I wanted her to turn around. Well, she was just trying to do this interview, like, be professional. And here's this little kid just bugging the crap out of her to turn around. Well, finally, he like points at like to turn around. Well, I took their picture and actually got it in Drag Racing Illustrated and got like $25 check. Like, I think that was like amazing to me. That I don't remember if I cashed it or not. So maybe that check's still floating around and I'll find it. But so it's kind of just what I did. And then as I got older, I worked. My mom opened a photo lab in a little drugstore up there where I lived, and course, you go to work for your mom and do what she's doing. So she taught me how to edit and taught me how to do the whole photography thing, like the dark room and developing photos and stuff like that. And she was like so hard on me for editing. Like, I'm like, Mom, like you have five other people here and you don't yell at them for anything. And like anything I did, like that wasn't perfect, like she yelled at me for and like made sure like I knew like what I did wrong and how to make it better. So like I look back at that and like now that's why like I mean I edit the crap. I love editing. Like that's my thing is like I want to bring out that emotion, but that all goes back to like her, like just teaching me how to edit at such a young age where I did get into it, like it kind of came back really quickly. So, but when I moved out here, like when you get older, like I didn't want to do what she did, right? Like I wanted to build cars, I wanted to do my own thing. And but I still loved like I had a point and shoot camera, like I would take it everywhere. I just was kind of embarrassed to really like take pictures. Like it sounds weird, but I just never wanted to be a photographer because that's what my mom did. Well, then as I was being a fabricator and I started traveling more, like I started hiking more and a camera phone started getting better and better to where you take a picture and it didn't look like this little crappy, can't tell what it is picture. So like you'd be at Phoenix at 7 in the morning and the sun would be coming up and like I'm supposed to be over there helping on the cars and I would be taking pictures on top of the hauler as the sun came up and it's beautiful and like well then I started post Instagram came around so like I would post that and everybody was like like you're actually good like at taking pictures like they look really cool like you should do that and I'm like yeah there's no way like I love my job like well just kept snowballing every time I would go and the more I would go hiking the more I'd go see pretty things like I just loved taking pictures I'm like there's just always that like inner voice in me that like this is what you should be doing but you get paid to do this but you this is really what you love and so the more I listened to that and like 2016 is when I thought about buying a camera and I bought one from Best Buy and actually like had like 4 weeks to return it. So like I took it to like Phoenix and Homestead and took pictures and was like, but I was like, I can't afford it. Like I just bought the camera knowing I could take it back. Like I'm not keeping it, giving it back. And I did. And then like throughout that winter into 2017, I'm like, I love taking pictures with that camera. So Canon had a sale on a 5D Mark IV, and I bought it. And 2017 is when Kurt won the Daytona 500. Well, I'd snuck up in the hauler and shot the backup car. So the backup car was up there with the wall of the hauler. Well, it reflected off that, so it was like a mirror image of like the car on the side of the wall with the car in front of it. So it was like kind of like that moment where I'm like, I don't know, it just clicked. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And so every time I would go anywhere, like I brought that camera everywhere. I didn't care if anybody laughed at me, like, and nobody ever did. But like once I got over that feeling of like, I don't want people to know that I want to be a photographer one day, like it just took off. And so everywhere I would go to the racetrack, I would be a fabricator. And at that point, like you would have to, when the pit stop happened, you'd have to grab the tires once they were done checking them, put them on the car, and then take them back to Goodyear. So I would do that as quickly as I could so I could come back to the pit stall where my camera was hidden under the pit box and then I would take pictures as they were going by. And just kept doing that. 2018, 2019, kind of turned every trip anywhere we went. Like if we went to Phoenix, I went hiking somewhere. My buddy Brian Murphy and I started hiking together. So it was kind of like but it was just just to be able to take pictures, like that's all I wanted to do. Well, then COVID came around and 2020, like you only had like four photographers, I think, that were allowed to track on there, all NASCAR people. The 2021 came and there's a guy he was like head of marketing. He's like, hey, our rosters are still we can't let all the contract photographers in the track, but if we get you a license, would you want to go and kind of do it for us? Like just be Daytona, like you get to shoot Daytona 500, but if you don't want to do anymore, like that's fine. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he's like, I'll pay you. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you don't got to pay me $1. I will be at that racetrack and shoot that event. And so I did, and it rained, like it rained all day, and like I'm out there playing in puddles and taking pictures of like drops on the tire and kind of just, and that's what he did, like that's what he told me is like I just want you to have fun. I just want you to be different. I want you to be artistic. Like give us something that other photographers in the garage aren't doing. And so that's how it started, is like he just gave me one shot and go have fun. And that one shot turned into, I think I did like 20 that year, 18. And then we have a really good social media manager, and she's been awesome. Like she's let me do whatever I wanted to do as far as like taking pictures. Like she's really never painted me into a box. She just gives me all that freedom. So it's kind of like it's just turned into what I do, what I love, and all because I took pictures with my phone 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So
Yeah, and then even going farther back, I mean, how many photographers can accredit, or even like the niche of motorsports photography, how many of them can accredit their mom to being like,
yeah.
like that's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And then, even up until now. So you mentioned that your social media manager doesn't really paint you into a box. So do you have a shot list for your weekends, or do you just have full creative freedom?
So all I have to do, the only shot list that I really get is I have to get kind of the side view, or like this weekend it was the hood because they were all parked like that. Like I have to get some shots for social media just to be like the today's the race day, like that race day post of all four cars. But other than that, I don't have any direction. Like they all give me, like they're like, just do whatever you do. Send us whatever you have, find those cool, unique opportunities or angles or, so no, like she really doesn't tell me what to shoot, and I love it. So
Oh, that's gotta be
and as far as
awesome.
like last year, like I didn't get to do any of the editings, and it kind of like that's kind of like my thing, like right, like that's how you make your pictures yours. And so like I had to take the pictures and I just gave them all to them, and like they did whatever they wanted with them. But I'm like, man, I was like, I just want to make these better. Like I want to be able to edit. And so that's why this year, like I just, and even I just, when my body hanging job was kind of like coming to where I didn't like it anymore, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be able to do the photo thing. Like like you never know when you're
Pardon me,
transitioning
I
into
got
that.
something in my eye. Keep
Oh,
talking.
you're good. Yep.
You can keep talking whenever you want. I put on like this face lotion or something somebody
Oh,
got me years ago today. I think it has
burn.
sunscreen in it. Anyways, keep talking.
Okay, so I was a little nervous that once I transitioned over, like maybe like I would have to have more structure and do not as moody of edits or whatever. And it's kind of been the opposite. Like even on the driver photo shoots, like like I had asked if we could use a smoke machine and like do something different and lighting and stuff like that. And she's like, whatever you want to do. Like so, she's been amazing with letting me just. I mean, it's not something I've ever done before, so it's kind of a trial and error. But she's trusted me in the fact that like maybe the first one's not perfect, but the second, third one, fourth one's all gonna be better. So like, so we have 6 drivers this year. So like, Harvick was the first, and I was like scared to death to like bust out this smoke machine, like make him do anything crazy. But then I think Chase was second, and like I start, like I knew he would do what I asked him to do. So like I kind of just said like, hey, let's get the smoke machine out, and we're gonna put this light behind this black piece of paper that I had cut holes in. And he's like, what? And so I took the picture, and I showed it to him. He was like, oh, okay, like that's cool. So like yeah, like everybody's been really cool with letting me just experiment and play around. And tomorrow I'm going to the shop to Riley and Cole are going to give me their helmets to just play around with for the afternoon. So kind of just yeah, everybody just lets me do whatever I want, and they don't pay me into a box, and I love it. So
That's got to be so like liberating because like the races that I've shot, this NASCAR grassroots level stuff, the most fun I've ever had is the ones where they're just like, just go have fun. Like I shot Super Dirt Week in Oswego Speedway. It's like the big Super Dirt Car
Oh
Series
yeah,
event.
yeah.
Yeah. And I shot for a local race outlet or like a Northeast race outlet, race per weekly. And I'm like, all right, do I have a shot list? We just need a victory lane shot. Have fun. And I think the best pictures I ever took in my life and the most fun I ever had was just because I didn't have that box. Like there is
Yeah,
no box. You
yeah,
can just
exactly.
so I sat for like a whole like heat race, just doing like slow pans while I like quickly zoom out quick, and I hit one. I'm like, this is it. Like this is so much fun. This is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
And it's so much fun not having that box.
it is because when you are in that box, like this is what you have to do. This is what this is what we want from you. Like that's all you're gonna get. And so many, like the track photographers, like I don't envy their job because they do have a set track, like shot list from each team, whatever. And like I talk to them and they're like, we don't get to do the pretty pictures that you do. I'm like, yeah, I was like, I see what you do and what you have to do, and you can't miss. Like when you have that expectation of like you have to get the whole car in focus, like you can't spend 20 laps just trying to nail that pan. Like I can. Like I feel bad for the people that don't have that freedom to kind of like do that. Like I don't know. I love that about photography. Like, have you ever been to Sebring?
I have not, but I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah, like that event, like, and not having any kind of photo credential at all, like is just the most fun. Like to shoot, spend 30 minutes just shooting cars going through fans just to try to get that one shot of where like that number plate or whatever brake rotor's glowing in front of you. Like, it's just so much fun. Like, I don't know. I love that freedom and just that fun that it is when you get that one shot that actually turns out. So
And just so you know, every motorsports photographer in the world envies you for that. You have it so good. So since you have this so much freedom, let's make like let's see like how they what is it? What was on Letterman? They used to do these like lists. What is Justin Potter's list for make like steps for creativity for getting like creative shots once you get those set ones that you need, like the few set ones that you do need. Like where do you go from there?
um I it's a good question. I think for me, like, I mean, obviously, like you look at the light and you look at sunlight and like you time of day or whatever it's gonna be. Like a lot of times I'll look at that before. Um, if it's a day race, like what can I do that's not just gonna be that one pan or something? Like I just try to like I went rafting with this guy in 2019 down the Grand Canyon. He's a National Geographic photographer, and like I'm like, what's your advice? And his advice was just find what's beautiful, like find what speaks to you, find you, right? Like so me, like I'm just I don't know, like I just try to find something throughout the day at each track that's different and that's I can make into a pretty picture. It's like whether this past weekend at the Clash, like it was like when the cars were coming around the track, like I noticed like that little split second of sunburst was going off the spoilers. So like that was what I was like trying to get lap after lap after lap, just trying to time that sunburst just right. And actually got a text right before I jumped on this call was like this guy was like, how did you make that sunburst on the back of Chase's spoiler? I'm like, well, I saw it and I just happened to hit it right. And he's like, no. He's like, that's fake. I'm like, no, that's literally like that split second of where you see that sunburst and like like it's gonna be at that moment. And so I just try to look for those little cues that throughout the day that's kind of like this is like kind of like speaking to you, like this is where you need to go with this. Um, or like I think 2021, like my first 6 or 7 races, it just happened to be like rain followed me everywhere I went. So like
That's been my
puddles, like
story of my life as
yep,
NASCAR races I've
yep.
shot so far. I have a
I
100%
mean,
hit ratio.
believe me, I had a streak that was pretty impressive. That was like, I mean, it lasted all the way back to my fabricator days, where it's like I'm so tired of rain delays. But like now, like it rained Saturday night at the Clash, and I showed up. Actually, I went to go get coffee that morning. I was like, oh, it rained last night. So I knew like immediately, like when I got to the track, like that was what was going to be different that day, is there's any puddles throughout the garage. So I got a really cool shot of like the 14 car rolling through the garage on one of their mini fails through tech of, the 14 guys pushing it, but the reflection on the bottom. So that's kind of my list, is just what is a day bringing going to give to you that's different than just the normal day. Um, that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's kind of where my
No,
brain goes, is just a find what's beautiful and find what the light in the day is going to give you that's different.
no, that's the perfect, that's exactly the answer I was looking for. Because so many people, I mean, including myself, and it's not a wrong answer to do. Okay,
Mm.
I have creative freedom. What's the slowest picture I could possibly take? And that's a great, that's a great thing. Like it never fails. If you hit the picture, it never fails to look cool. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's where a lot of people stop. And that's where I stop. Like, and I really want to,
Mm.
open up that horizon to, me and then others, listening. Like, what else can you do? Because I mean, there's like other things, but they kind of get overused. Like, I don't know, Watkins Glen, people shoot through the guardrail. I'm like, it was cool the first time somebody did it, but now everybody does it, and it's,
Yeah.
or like the
So when
Charlotte
you walk in the
Oval.
Glen,
I'm sorry.
you find at the Glen, I have not shot through the fence through the guardrail. I know what you're talking about. But I was walking back, and I was walking from the far end of the track. Well, I just happened to find like these 3 rows of vineyards that were on the infield.
I know exactly what you're talking
So I
about. Yep.
started shooting. Yeah, and I'm like, that's what's different or whatever. Um, so yeah, the Roval, like, yeah, the red, white, and blue, like everything, everybody, like, and I feel like I know last year, like I was just never hit the pans like I wanted to, and it was such a frustrating feeling, like, and I think it's because I was using like a 100 to 400, and I was trying to get as close as I could, and just trying to get like too much, and so it forced me to kind of just do go different places and go find something that you didn't shoot the year before. And so I went outside the track and like actually took, like, I mean, I spent 10 laps walking from pit road all the way to the outside just so I could go try to shoot them coming off that that kink on the backstretch. Um, so I just try to like always make sure that I'm not doing what I did last year. And I look at my photos from the year before, and like it's not really to like see the places, it's to see what I did so I don't do that again, and kind of just study that up. Um, but like there's so many talented people within the NASCAR industry, and like I feel like more and more, even in the 2 years I've started there, like you see more and more people doing different things. So it's like we all kind of like can learn from each other. Like that's right. The best form of flattery is finding somebody that does exactly what you do because you
Mhm.
did it. But like there's nothing wrong with that. Like I learn from people every day, and like I look at their pictures, and like I, in my mind, I'm like, how did he do this, and how did he do that, and like how did that person get that shot, or where did they shoot that from? Like just try to always learn something. So I know that sounds cliche, but like you can learn so much from everybody. Like so,
No, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast is to, we can learn from people, like learn from.
and like going back to what you said about panning, like that was a game that I had with myself at Daytona. I forget what year that was, but like how low can I go? And I think I got to like 1/6, and like believe me, like there's
Oh my
a
goodness.
crap ton of pictures that are awful, but there's that one picture where it's like that lead car was in focus and the rest were just blurry, and like I was like, all right, like I don't know that I can go lower than that. Like I see what some of those sports car guys do, and like the crazy lines, and it's like 1 second shots. I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but that's amazing. And like I hope one day like I can figure that one out. But yeah, like that was a game I played at Daytona one time, was just see how low I can go with getting that shot. And like, like 1/10, like I started getting to where like I was nailing 1/20th. I was nailing the 1/10. But getting to 1/6 was like, and then you really start looking at the track and like watching the bumps and like looking at the cars, and you're like, all right, like I can't shoot it there. Like I have to shoot it here. And so like as a photographer, like you actually start seeing like where the bumps are at in the track. And like you would be shocked at like how rough that track is, and like how
Oh
much you got to
yeah.
pay attention to that. you don't pay attention, you're going to be shooting that spot, and it's going to be right in that bump, and you're going to miss it every time. It's not you missing, it's just the track's not giving you what you need. So
And how
yeah, that's
overjoyed were you when you hit that 1.6? Because I gotta, just from my own personal experience, when I hit a slow pan, I'm
I
just
was
like
so
off the walls.
excited that I took a picture of it, and I think I tweeted it out or put it on my Instagram story like at that moment, because I'm like, I can't believe I just shot this, but I want to make sure that this setting is on, like,
Yep,
captured,
right
so
there.
nobody
I
can like
did
say
that.
that. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was A, shocked, and B, just like I have to make sure that I capture the back of the screen, because nobody's gonna believe me that I got 1.6, or I wasn't gonna believe me. Like, so yeah, I was pretty excited.
No, and like that's like like something that's so valuable to, like, motorsports photographers is, like, that like, at least to me, like, one of my proudest moments ever is I hit a perfect 1/10 of a second pan.
Hmm.
Now, to a non-photographer, I mean, it's like a pretty boring background, so it doesn't look all that impressive. I'm like, look at the freaking metadata. Like, you have no
Right,
idea
right.
how proud I am of this. And it sucks because really isn't that all that impressive a picture if you don't know how, like, the work that went into behind it. And I'm just like, I sat here. It was at Trans Am weekend at Lime Rock last year. And I sat here and I'm like, you'll have no idea how long I was taking this, shooting for the shot. And there's 800 pictures you don't see to this one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it got like 30 likes on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, whatever, people, whatever. But so
Yeah.
we'll wrap things up here. I ask all the people that come on my podcast to share screen here. Uh aha. Maybe I can't. Do you remember basically I ask all the people that come on the podcast, specifically photographers, what's a piece of work that they're proud of? Now, do you remember which one you sent me? Because I have it.
I sent you uh, the Jimmy Johnson night pan at uh, Road Atlanta.
Yes, so they can see it on the screen. I can't figure out how to share screen. I'm not gonna, bother time with it. So, would you like to describe just what led up to that shot, how you took that shot, and why it sticks out to you so much?
So that was after a long day of shooting at Road Atlanta, and I was just one of those times where like I felt like I had gotten enough shots, so like it didn't matter what I got the rest of the night, like just have fun. So we had went to the backstretch, and all of the photographers and everybody was lined up back there, and I remember like, and I don't know how you feel about flashes, but like I don't want to use a flash, right? Like I don't want to like use that to get the shot. Like, and that's not to go against anybody that uses a flash. So I was trying and trying. I'm like, I was so mad because like you couldn't see the side of the car. Like like I would get the brake rotor lit up, but I wouldn't get the car. And I don't think it was Jimmy driving at that moment, but I remember he came up. Well, I got the shot, but I remember looking at it. Well, the car behind him was lighting him up with his headlights because he was just far enough back to where like he hit the sideboard, and I think there's brake lights coming from the front. And so when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, like I think I was done at that moment. Like I was like, all right, this is my shot. So like you say, like when you hit that shot and like you see it and you're like, that was exactly what I wanted. Like I never, you know, thought it would actually happen or actually work. And so I went back and I edited it and I shared it. And then like I think it's my friend. She's like, hey, she works for like sold the drag racing side. She's like, just so you know, Jimmy Johnson shared that photo, but he didn't give you credit for it. I'm like,
I remember
of
that.
all
I
the
remember
pictures,
that.
like I was so disappointed that like so I knew somebody that knew like his PR rep, so they fixed it. They added credit on it. Well, then like the other drivers shared, like Simon Pagino, and like he messaged me. He's like, "That's one of the coolest photos I've ever seen in my life. Like, thank you so much." And like, I was just jaw dropped. Like, and then I think he was Japanese, Chinese. I don't remember what nationality he was, but like that guy was so friendly on social media, and he was so grateful that I let him use that photo. And like, that's the coolest thing ever. Like I was just like blown away that anybody shared it, and like not only that anybody, like Jimmy Johnson and all these amazing drivers. So like that's my favorite shot for any sports car race. And like I don't know that it'll ever get better than that. Like that one for me, like I will hang it up and I will cherish it, and that will just be my sports car shot forever.
Especially to those like those drivers that have seen thousands and thousands of
Mm,
pictures to themselves, for them to come out and say like,
yeah, like Simon
"Damn,
Pageant.
dude,
Like, I don't
that's
remember if he'd
cool."
won the 500 that year or what, but like he's like, I remember him writing me, and I'm like, this doesn't sound like a social media like your agent, you know, like this seems like something you are
Simon
saying.
Pageant was typing like,
Yeah,
"What?"
yeah, and I'm like, this is so cool. So yeah, that was awesome. So that's why that one will be my favorite for a long time. So
Absolutely, man. You're riding a high coming into this 2023 season. You're shooting the Daytona 500 in 2 weeks,
I am.
and then you are shooting the whole season as well.
Yes, I get to the Western West Coast swing. I'm only doing Phoenix, but after that, it's kind of probably 2 to 3 a month, and yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited. Like I get to edit, and it's like I get to help make Stewart-Haas's kind of like their whole Instagram and Twitter feed kind of like look cool. So that's my goal for the year.
Yes. And you have an important job. I'll see you hopefully at some of the Northeast races if you're there. Um, so your important job, social
I will
media.
for
You have
sure.
be there. Perfect. So your job helping social media. You gotta help yourself on social media too, dude. You got like 30 seconds. Promote yourself. What are we checking out?
Jay Potter photo on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, come follow me there, and I'll follow you back.
Alrighty, all that information will be in the description everywhere that you're watching this, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, shirts, whatever. It'll be there in the description. Justin Potter, dude, it was a pleasure. Great
No, it's my
conversation
pleasure.
with you.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Alrighty, yes, Justin Potter on the Sam J Show.